So welcome everybody to Texas AEL Manager Monday, providing components of wraparound services for customer success. Today, our main presenter is Maria Morrow, and she's a TWC AEL program specialist, and I'll provide a little bit more information about her. We also have a great panel, and Maria will be introducing the panel as she progresses through the presentation. My name is Olga Escamilla, and I will be your host. And I also have Anne-Marie Molinari Sanders and Katie Snow, and they are helping me. They are assisting me with hosting and technical support in the background. So you may see messages or private messages from them, and they're just trying to help out through our session. So I'm going to go ahead and continue. And at this time, I want to welcome our presenter, Maria Morrow. And just a little bit about Maria. After getting out of the U.S. Navy over 20 years ago, Maria decided that she didn't want to continue in the healthcare field, but she still wanted to continue serving her community. She pursued a BA in sociology and then continued on to achieve an MA in human resource management and organizational development. Maria found counseling and education to be her passion and has been able to use her skills in the areas for over the past 10 years in career counseling, vocational rehabilitation, and now adult education and literacy. So welcome. We want to welcome Maria. Maria, take it away.
Thank you so much for the lovely introduction, Olga. And I'm going to start sharing my screen here. Good afternoon now, everyone, and thank you for joining us. Today, I will be hosting a panel of speakers that are all listed here. And as Olga said, as we go through the presentation, I will introduce each of them. They will be talking about the components of wraparound services that they are doing in their areas. However, before we begin, let's do a pop quiz, because a pop quiz is always fun, right? So I'm going to ask you guys some questions. I'm going to test your knowledge on the WII grant, okay, the Workforce Integration and Follow-up Grant. So I'll ask you these questions, and if you could put your answers in the chat pod, and Olga will let me know what you guys are answering, we'll go ahead and get started. So the very first question, if you were paying attention to what I said earlier, what is the title of AEL letter 0420?
BRB. Oh, no, sorry.
BRB.
No, that's not it.
One. Not be right back.
Sorry. WII says Gracie.
Yes. What does that stand for? What's on there?
Workforce Integration and Follow-up Activities.
Yes, thank you.
That was Charmaine. Thank you, Charmaine.
Thank you, Charmaine.
And Gracie.
And Gracie. Follow-up activities are a variety of services and workforce preparation activities that occur after a participant is no longer active in AEL Direct Services and for up to 365 days after they have exited. When do we consider a participant to have exited the program?
90 days, says Sarah. 90 days, says Jesus. Everybody, 90 days.
Correct.
Awesome.
Some examples of follow-up activities are providing support service referrals, collecting information on entering post-secondary education, or training and credential attainment, as well as what else?
Collection of info, collecting job info.
Yes, very good.
Employ, someone says, collecting info. All right.
When must all the funding be expended by?
June 30th, June 30th. Everybody says June 30th. Thank you,
Very
everybody.
good.
Awesome.
Awesome. True or false? Funds can be used for marketing or program promotion.
True.
Yes.
We have a couple of truths and a false. True.
It is true.
Oops. Someone said, oops. It is true, everybody. It is true.
Yes. And then finally, the only answer left, of course, funds can be used to purchase gas cards or Simon gift cards.
Adrian says false.
Unfortunately, no, they can't. Yay, you all are awesome, and you can't be fooled this afternoon. I chose this picture because workforce integration is all about working as a team to help best serve our participants, and this group is motivated and ready to help. So I know you may have noticed that this group of people are not wearing masks and they're not socially distancing, but they told me that they got their shots before returning to the office, and they're all raising their left arm to show you that this is the arm I got my shot in. Haha, just kidding. All right. So You may be wondering, why are you talking about WII again? I thought that this was about wraparound services. Well, it is, but all of the services that are going to be discussed here today are services that you can use your WII funding for. So, a quick recap on WII funding. In October last year, I hosted a session on the WII grant and introduced what some programs were using the funding for. We talked about increasing AEL integration with referrals to local workforce development boards and vocational rehabilitation employment services, and enrollments in post-secondary education or training services, as well as supporting the collection of post-exit information on education outcomes if past participants are now employed and what they're earning, as well as enrollment and progress in post-secondary education or training and credential attainment. And finally, to support the increases in distance and remote learning. Today, again, we are going to discuss the components of wraparound services that programs are doing. And if you like what you hear and are interested in doing the same, you can utilize your WII funding to get started. The first thing we're going to discuss is enhancing existing staff services. Last time we talked about doing things like using the funding for salary for existing staff to support workforce integration and data collection tasks, and purchasing technology that will improve staff outreach or communication with participants and other staff. Essentially, you want to ensure that your staff have the motivation and the means to provide quality services. Joining us today is Art Longoria, and he is going to talk about the case management services that are provided at Brazosport College. But first, let me tell you a little bit about Art. Art graduated from Texas A&I University in Kingsville with a chemical engineering degree. He's worked for Dow Chemical in Freeport, Texas for almost 31 years, and the last 10 years with Dow as a project manager with projects in Texas, Louisiana, and Mexico. He earned his project management certification while at Dow and has worked at Brazosport College for 15 years with over 10 years working as the grant manager on multiple grants. Welcome, Art, and I'm going to hand it off to you.
Good afternoon. Like I said, I'm the grant manager for Brazosport College's Accelerate Texas 4 grant. And today I'm going to talk to you about case management at Brazosport College. I understand many of you do not currently do case management. And my objective today is to tell you what we at Brazosport College are doing. So if you're considering doing case management, you can determine if our process might be something you want to consider using or modifying for use at your college. Just to give you some background information, as you all are aware, our Accelerate Texas 4 grant does not provide for counseling and case management services, but we started similar programs or got similar grants back in 2014. And our first grant was a Department of Labor grant. And this grant, the Department of Labor grant, paid for our salaries. We have a 3-person team on our ATX. Well, we call it Jumpstart at Brazosport College. So we have a 3-person team that consists of a grant manager, a part-time AOS, and a part-time counselor. Now, at the start, when we first started, all of us were part-time, so 19 hours a week. And then because of the value added to the program by a dedicated counselor, we decided to continue using kind of the same team framework for future grants. The counselor, the dedicated counselor is located in the same building as our craft training, and it is one person that our students can go to if they're having issues. They don't have to go to regular BC counselors and see different people each time. So they get to work with one person during the duration of our program. As you probably have similar situations, but all our ATX4 students are really high risk. Most of the program participants that we bring into our program really don't have jobs or have part-time minimum wage jobs. And some don't have very ideal living conditions. We've had people living out of their cars, one in a tent, and mostly some in, most of them in really crowded apartment complexes or rooms. And some of our participants that are 19 or older do not have a high school diploma or high school equivalency. So we use an application for individual approval to register them. And kind of the majority of our participants have been out of school for a long time. They're in their 30s, 40s, and coming back to school is kind of a not pleasant thing for them. They're scared. They don't know how they're going to do. And anyway, that's why we have a dedicated counselor to work with these students and to kind of answer their questions and to ease their minds about different things. Our whole team is involved in that, but the first point of contact is our counselor. Our ATX4 counselor has the same qualifications that a regular counselor at Brazosport College would have. They have to have a minimum of a bachelor's degree in counseling, and a master's is desirable. They have to have at least 5 years experience in counseling and a lot of experience dealing with high-risk adult populations. Now, it's a part-time position, so typically the people that apply for our position are retired counselors that are wanting to come back and work part-time. So I think we've used, since 2014, we've had 4 different counselors working on our programs. And we've never had a shortage of applicants. There's always 6 or 10 on our application list for us to interview. So you'll be surprised when you advertise for this program, and it's a part-time program, you're going to have a lot of applicants. Now, typically, the responsibilities of our counselor, we have responsibilities before our programs start, the semester programs start, and we have a lot of applicants for each of our programs. We have a pipe fitting program, a electrical program, and an office admin program. So we have, I guess, in the past, 50 to 60 applicants per program. So with lots of questions, lots of concerns about coming back to school or what it would take to get into our program. So the counselor and really all our team work with all these applicants and talk to them and try to comfort them and make them want to come back to school. So anyway, the counselor also talks to the students or to the potential applicants about resources that we have available for them here at Brazosport College. Resources such as Gator Mart, food pantry, tutoring, anything like that. So she tells them about every program we have that's here to help them get through their program. And usually there's a lot of enrollment issues when we get an applicant and they pass all the eligibility requirements. There's if they had high school, they need to furnish us with transcripts. Some of them are from not in the local area, so they have difficulty getting transcripts. Some that have attended some college have holes on their records that they have to clear before they can be admitted into our program. A lot of our youngest students don't have meningitis shots, so our counselor works with them to help them get their transcripts, help them work on getting their holes removed. And we have some local organizations that do meningitis shots either for free or at a discounted rate, so we refer them to them. She's also the first contact for students with disabilities. We've had some students that are dyslexic or some have eye issues, cataracts. So she refers these students to a special counselor for students with disabilities. She doesn't actually do that, but refers them to our BC counselor. And we do a lot of eligibility testing for our programs. The first eligibility is TABE testing. Our office admins test in language and reading, and our craft students test in math. So she helps us schedule the testing for those students. And these students have to pass within a range of 500 to 799 to be eligible to participate in our program. For the crafts, that's just the first eligibility step. They also have to pass a background check and pass a hair follicle drug test. Now, after the program starts, the counselor works directly with each student to develop goals and training plans. You'd be surprised how many of our students, after they feel comfortable going to classes and saying, hey, I can do this. They want to continue their education. So she helps them plan for getting a basic certificate or even associate's degrees. While the program is in process, again, our office admin program is 12 weeks long and our crafts programs are 9 weeks long. So she monitors the students' progress. We all do. We try to make sure that students are going to be successful. We talk to our students continuously and, praise them and help them pass. She also provides problem-solving assistance to students that are due to obstacles that are social, economic, or other issues such as not enough money to pay for rent or whatever. So she refers those students to another department that are having issues like that. And there's also a lot of administrative duties that she has to keep up. Every conversation she has with a student, every plan must be documented and records kept. So a lot of her time is spent doing data gathering, record keeping, and report presentations. After the counselor also has some additional responsibilities. She is the first point of contact for our students that need assistance that are not related to school expenses. Like I said, our students are mostly high risk. They have issues paying rent, utility bills, paying for food, that kind of thing. So she is their first point of contact. And when they approach her, we gather together as a team and we discuss the issues, and then we determine if we need to refer these students to the coordinator of student wellness and basic needs for those needing emergency aid funding. Our counselor also works with surrounding area high school counselors to promote our Accelerate Texas 4 programs. A lot of the high school graduates don't see college as their future, but when they find out that we can get them ready for jobs in 9 weeks for the crafts or 12 weeks for the office admin folks, we get a lot of applicants for our programs. So our counselor is pretty busy and does a lot of recording of issues and a lot of meetings with students. Again, I think I already talked about this, but this is some of the sort of documentation that she has to keep. And again, recording of each conversation with students. We all have to do that, and put those in their files. And actually, the counselor has to document them in Brazosport College counseling system as well. Anyway, that is the very high-level overview of our case management and counselor program here at Brazosport College for Accelerate Texas. Do any of you have any questions that I can try to answer? If not, thank you.
Thank you, Art. Great information.
No questions at this time, Olga?
Not that I could see unless
Okay.
people are busy typing.
I can't see the chat right now, so I'm going to rely on you for that. Okay, so while you guys are typing, I guess I will go ahead and go over. Tarrant County was one of the programs that was going to join us at one point. However, they were unable to join us today, but they did write y'all a lovely letter to let you know what they are doing over there. So I'm just going to read it to you, and so you can find out what Tarrant County is doing. So hear ye, dear fellow programs. Tarrant County Adult Education and Literacy Consortium service providers have utilized the funds to hire additional staff as follow-up specialists. Using AEL Letter 0420 Change 1, all the activities outlined and the team's data entry requirements will fall on this position to carry out. In the event that the TCAELC service provider is not able to or does not require an additional staff person due to being a small provider, these follow-up activities and requirements will fall on the Career Pathway Navigator to adhere. By the first week of June 2021, our consortium will meet with service providers on their progress to solidify these critical positions and to formalize a standardized case management system within their organization. If separate funding will not continue for WII, service providers will absorb this into their contract allocations. Sincerely, Tarrant County AEL Consortium, which is what TCAELC also stands for. Did we have any questions come in, Olga?
No, none so far.
Okay, well, we're going to move right along then. And next, we are going to talk about workforce collaboration. In AEL Letter 0420, it states that WII funding was approved to aid in development of individualized participant case management and referral procedures with boards, VR, and community-based workforce intermediaries. If you have attended any of my previous webinars, something you have heard me talk a lot about is collaborating with your local workforce organizations, such as your local workforce and vocational rehabilitation centers. In the last WII session, Jay Ruiz from Temple shared a pilot program that he was doing with Goodwill Heart of Texas to provide training, support, and retention services to participants. These are all services that can also be provided by collaborating with your local workforce centers. I highly encourage you, if you are not part of the local workforce board already, to reach out to them and see how y'all can best help each other. But here to talk about how they collaborate with their local board and created a full-time position that is at the Workforce Center is Brenda Schofield from Region 5. Now, Brenda is the director of Region 5, and she covers the Southeast Texas workforce area. She has been the AEL director for over 30 years, and I am happy to announce that she is a new member of our Texas AEL Advisory Committee. Take it away, Brenda.
Thank you so much, Maria. Go to the next slide, please, Ms. Vanna. Thank you. Okay, thank you so much. When Region 5 was awarded the AEL grant in July of 2014, the Southeast Texas Workforce Board needed something better than they had with the former AEL provider. It was important for us to provide accountability, reliability, consistency, delivery and support, and most of all, results. We've joked that Maria is our local Vanna, so she fits that bill perfectly today. All right, when we were awarded the AEL grant, one of the first things we did was meet with the board staff to discuss teamwork, address challenges, determine needs, and what we each could bring to the table to determine how to integrate service delivery for customers and AEL learners, and to ensure success with all partners on board. We worked together, and within the first month of the grant, we developed a memorandum of understanding. We planned regular partnership meetings. We began co-located ESL, ABE, and GED classes in 2 of the 3 workforce centers. We created a plan to provide baseline testing for all workforce customers and AEL learners in all workforce centers. So we actually provided some testing for workforce customers who were not AEL learners, with the hope that this would solidify our relationship with the workforce centers and the staff, as well as hopefully bring us some new AEL recruits with those customers. We planned for a co-referral of customers and adult learners, and we each provided the other's website address link on our mutual websites. We also conducted a blast mutual social media and marketing campaign. One important key to our success was developing a strong, supportive, professional relationship with the Workforce Board, Southeast Texas Executive Director, and other board staff. So we worked very closely with the board staff. And flexibility is always the key to success. And it really has been for us since day one. If one plan, class, or schedule didn't work, we immediately tried other options. We remained open to new and alternate ideas, and we were always willing to make whatever adjustments we needed to make for the program, classes, and partnerships to succeed. We created a true partnership with our workforce board staff. We considered each other co-workers and team members. We were just pleasantly surprised one day within the first month when we were talking, and they actually said, look, we think of you as co-workers. You're part of our team. You're not just a partner. So they really started that relationship off really well with that cooperation with us. We consistently communicated and informed each other about any changes, updates, success, anything important even if our schedule was going to change, we were going to be off for a Region 5 holiday, or they were going to be off, maybe closed on a day when we were not closed through Region 5. We just always made sure that we had that communication and follow through. We did what we said we would do. We kept our word and we communicated if there was a problem. But also if we needed help, we never hesitated to speak up and ask for help. And that was a way that we could make sure that we followed through and were able to do what we said we would do. And results, we shared our performance outcomes and successes with the Workforce Board on a regular basis. And also for the past several years, we've asked our students to write letters detailing how AEL has affected their lives. And at the end of the program year, we shared those letters with the board and the board staff. And recently, using our WII funds and local funds, we placed an AEL workforce integration and follow-up specialist on site at one of the workforce centers to facilitate convenient and immediate co-referral of customers. And this staff also serves as a resource for referral to social services in the community. The specialist visits AEL virtual and face-to-face classes regularly with the expectation that getting to know the students early will help with follow-up later on. As a result of the collaboration, we currently still provide on-site and virtual classes at our workforce centers. We also provide CASAS testing for all adult learning AEL learners and Workforce Solutions customers. And recently, we coordinated with Train PD to help 6 workforce staff complete the CASAS test administrator training so they can test individual customers as needed. If someone comes in and for some reason there's just an individual student or maybe a couple of students who need testing immediately, they can do that. So we appreciate so much Train PD's cooperation with us and for working with us to get that done. And it was it was something that they wanted to do through the Workforce Board. And we were just so happy to be able to work with Train PD to be able to do that. And our assessment staff is on site at Workforce Solutions Centers for testing and orientation 4 days a week at one site and at least once a week at the other 2 Workforce Solutions Center sites. We also assisted the Workforce Board staff to complete the AEL portion of the board's strategic plan. And currently, as a result of our AEL and board collaboration, 30% of all AEL students are served in virtual and face-to-face Workforce Center classes. So 2 of our AEL students were selected by the board as workforce ambassadors for the Southeast Texas area. They select 4 workforce ambassadors each year for the Southeast Texas area. And one of our students for the past 2 years was selected. So we were very, very proud. Collaboration also helps meet the board and AEL's mutual performance measures. During the pandemic, workforce centers became primary face-to-face and pre and post-testing sites while other locations were closed. As a result of having the progress testing available on site at multiple locations, multiple days, and various times, we were able to schedule face-to-face progress testing. We were also able to schedule the virtual testing, but as many of you know, there's a certain amount of resistance from students on that virtual testing. So this was one of the contributing factors that enabled us to meet our performance-based funding measures this year. We were very, very relieved to meet that, and we were very grateful that we had that opportunity to provide that face-to-face testing. As a result of the collaboration, our learners have better opportunities for better job placement and higher wages. We've established very successful employer partnerships. Employer confidence grew due to our successful collaboration with workforce, community organizations, and local employers. One of the keys to our success has been our collaboration with a variety of different organizations, employers, and of course the Workforce Board. Students have found success at job fairs. Many of our students were hired on the spot throughout these years that we've been working with Workforce Boards. The fairs are continuing virtually at this time. And as a result of board collaboration, we received over $375,000 in local employer grants during the past 4 years to fund the first Jobs for America's Graduates Out of School Opportunity Youth Program in Texas. We would never have been able to start that program had it not been for the foresight and the direction of our Workforce Board past executive director, Marilyn Smith. AEL also received $300,000 in Texas Innovative Partnership Grants as a subrecipient of grants submitted by the Workforce Solutions Southeast Texas director, who submitted it on our behalf as a match to the Jobs for America's Graduates Opportunity Youth Program. And we were also awarded 3 Texas Workforce Commission Employer Partnership Awards as a result of the employer partnerships that we established due to Workforce Board collaboration activities. So we are very, very pleased with our partnership. We hope to continue to grow that partnership. And I hope that our experiences will help other AEL programs in collaboration with their own workforce boards. And please get in touch with us if you or you know someone who needs our help. I definitely would be happy to share more information, and I'm certain that that's something else that we could partner with our Workforce Board in doing, is to share more information just about our partnership. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Brenda. And we already have a question. So is that okay, Maria, if I ask the question?
Go ahead.
Okay. And I think you might have answered a little bit of this. It said, do you assess with TABE, online, or paper pencil? And then does Workforce Solutions pick up the cost of the assessment material for individuals that are not AEL? The question was, do we assess with the online? Yes, absolutely. If we can do we also, right now we mainly do CASAS, but if it's needed, we are providing the TABE. But for TABE and CASAS, our preference definitely is online. However, a couple of weeks ago, we went out to a community partner to provide some testing for an IET that we were going to work with them on. And we had prepped everything in advance. We had computers set up. We tested the internet. We even brought a few of our own MiFis. And as you know, lo and behold, the unexpected happened, and we could not get computer access. So we always keep some paper and pencil versions of our TABE and our CASAS on hand, just in case, because we are in an area like many of you who sometimes we have great internet service and sometimes we don't. So that's just always, that's always an option. We always make sure that we have at least a few paper and pencil versions handy in case something goes wrong with our online, with our internet to provide the online testing. Was there another part to that question? Yeah, it says, does Workforce Solutions pick up the cost of assessment materials for those individuals that are not AEL?
Yes, they do. They do provide that.
Okay, thank you so much. Maria?
Thank you again, Brenda, and thank you, Olga. Creating a new position to help with case management or collecting post-exit information is another option everyone had with the WII funding. Austin Community College is another program that created a position to aid in referrals and post-exit outcomes. However, it has blossomed into something even bigger. Here to talk about the Workforce Integration Coordinator position, we're going to have 2 speakers on it. First will be Kathy Dowdy, the AEL Executive Director of ACC, and then following her is the Workforce Integration Coordinator, Danielle Rosenblath. Before they start, however, I'm going to give you a little bit of information on both of them. So Kathy has a master's is an MED in educational psychology from UT Austin. 5 years experience working for the workforce and 25 years experience working for ACC. 18 years of those were in adult ed and 5 years as the executive director. Danielle has a master's degree in rehabilitation counseling and over 15 years of case management experience working with individuals from disadvantaged populations to overcome barriers or impediments to education and employment. Previously, she served as a unit support coordinator to vocational rehabilitation field offices and was the liaison to all 3 local workforce centers as well as ACC Adult Education Department during that time. Okay, and now I'll hand it over to Kathy.
Maria, thank you very much. So yes, I'm Catherine Dowdy, Executive Director for Austin Community College Adult Education. And first, I just want to do a thank you to TWC for this workforce integration initiative and those funds. They were extremely helpful. We are very sad that they are going away. But I believe that that initiative and that letter came out before the pandemic, and I did appreciate TWC's ability to pivot and provide more flexibility with those funds. Because we had already leaned into the, I believe, sort of the core intent of that letter, the workforce integration, we really stayed with our same plan that we were going to hire a coordinator that was going to help us integrate with workforce and the workforce board and our workforce centers. And because we had, Doug's going to talk about a technology lending program. We had that thankfully through ACC. Brenda talked in great detail with her great initiatives in her area. And we had some of the same initiatives. We had tried to do assessment testing at our workforce centers. We had someone on site. I had started monthly meetings with our workforce staff, WIOA training staff. We had reached out with ability to benefit to bridge funding sources. We had done so many things, but because we didn't have a point person, they didn't quite go all the way. We didn't get it as fully flushed out as we wanted to and productive as we wanted to, as Brenda describes. And also I'm going to say back with Art, with the case management, we really also wanted to lean in with these funds and with this person on more case management and more counseling. And you'll see with Danielle, I feel like we are so excited to have Danielle because she has previous experience with VRS, all that experience. She knows how the workforce centers work. When we hired Danielle, we were a little sad because we worked so well with her already. And we were, it's like we already had her connection through VRS to refer our students, but having her on our side of the house has been so helpful. So that was our main goals, was to help make connections with our workforce systems to finally get from point A to point B with the WIOA training bridge, help our students go from ability to benefit and get full funding so that they can save their financial aid and go on and transition to get their bachelor's if they so desire, to also have those connections with childcare, with VRS, with TWC labor market information. And of course, one of the core tenets of the workforce integration initiative is to have those follow-up and the organization that so that you can take those students and make sure that they have all the workforce skills, that they have the labor market information to make good choices with their majors and their class choices, really. And so that they can then get into a career that will really lift them up and improve their economic situation. And then so Danielle, she'll get into all the details of what she does. I'm so happy to have her on our team. She's just fantastic. And then finally, her case management skills and bringing that to our programs. So I am now going to, and we did she's targeting our IET intensive students first, but she has also moved to our general ESL students, our HSC students, and brought in training from TWC for our entire division. And to have somebody, a point person doing that has been extremely valuable versus everyone taking that as a part of their job. So it's a value add, because not only is she really taking charge of this, she brings in other funding. She brings in other funding for our division, but also for our students. So I now will turn it over to Danielle and let her tell you some of the specifics she's been doing.
Okay, thank you, Kathy. I'm like, you did a really good job of covering all of that information. So I will jump in. So my primary role, of course, is to track post-secondary gains and employment outcomes of CPW exiters. As Kathy mentioned, we started with a pretty small population, and as time has gone on, we've expanded that to include all of the different programs under career pathways. And in the process of doing that and working with the instructors and the coordinators, I figured out that I needed a different approach for the different types of programs and the different types of goals that the students have that are coming out of those programs. So just to speak to that a little bit more, we've created new data collection methods across the board by creating spreadsheets that separate students out by quarters so that it will be easier to follow up with them based on the time that they've exited. And it also is a great way to open that door again for students, to remind them that we're still here. And if they have any questions about returning to school or completing their work in Texas profile, updating their employment information, maybe trying a different strategy, that they're more than welcome to reach back out to us with any questions that they may have at that time. With the new data collection method for our internationally trained professionals specific to this, we are in the process of integrating that into the curriculum so that we're able to get that data up front. And it also gives me the opportunity to make that connection with students so that they're more likely to reply back and to give us updates once they've exited the program. With the ITP program, we are asking questions like, where is their country of origin? What languages do they speak? What degrees do they have? What was their professional career experience before they came to the US? It also asks, what is their job now here in Texas? So if we have an engineer or a doctor working at DoorDash or Amazon, we definitely want to reach out to them and see what resources they're needing in order to get back into the field that's consistent with what they had done before. This is a new process. And so, again, integrating that into the curriculum and getting the feedback from students, it's just going to take some time to see what the results are going to be in the long term. As Kathy mentioned, I was a VR counselor with Workforce, or what was previously known as DARS, for many, many, many years. And so I'm very familiar with a lot of the staff and resources that are here in the local Austin area. I have reached out to my contacts at Workforce and Vocational Rehab. We have monthly meetings just to touch base, talk about what's going on. If there are any career fairs or other things going on at the workforce centers, or if maybe they have a student that isn't ready for WIOA yet and they need some polishing up before they get to that point. It's just been a great way to send referrals from either direction, and also for our ability to benefit and level up students. WIOA or work may be a potential funding resource, and VR as well. For some of our students. And it's also been great to facilitate some of those meetings with the accessibility services, student accessibility services, and Voc Rehab. So whenever we've had students with any kind of challenges in their classroom, I've been able to kind of jump in and be that facilitator to resolve any issues and to help them follow up and know what resources may be available to them and how to go about getting those resources. I've created professional development activities for the adult education staff. And so I had a representative from the Labor Market and Career Information Division from TWC come in, and he did 2 separate presentations on how to use Work in Texas for our coordinators, our instructors, and any other staff that wanted to attend. Again, we're just trying to get our staff comfortable with that website, and so they can help students register and have better opportunities. It has a lot of bells and whistles, and it may seem a little overwhelming, but having that person come in and just give them an overview, I think it's made it a little less intimidating, so to speak, so that they are sharing that resource with their students. I attend classes to present on career resources, resumes, and job search activities. So that may be anything from registering with Work in Texas, uploading a resume to Indeed, using ZipRecruiter, maybe something along the lines of the font, the cover letter. Do you need to include it? What did the resume look like in the field that you're trying to get a job? And then also talking to them about time management with their job search activities, like what's reasonable? How many jobs are you going to apply for this week? Have you considered these alternatives for job titles that may give you more leads? Or maybe if you try this different way, you could, work on these areas. Are you struggling with interviews? Here's our career resources department that can help you with that. So it's essentially a bridge to a lot of different resources. And in doing that, whenever I meet with the students to tell them about career resources or whatever it may be about my position, to let them know I will be following up with them, I always offer to meet with them one-on-one to go over their resume, to talk about their job search, to talk about what are the different job titles that you're looking at. If you're going through our accounting QuickBooks, then you're going to look for a bookkeeper position. This is the typical salary that you can expect. But if you were to continue your education and look at a full-blown accountant, here's where you could be. And so we have those conversations about what resources are out there, what's your real goal, what are your aptitudes, what's going to make you the most successful, and more importantly, what do you need to get there? Do you need help with childcare? I mean, transportation is not as much of an issue now, but as we all know, it was at one time. So it's that counseling piece that comes into play there. And then I assist with the orientation and registration events. And again, that's just to build familiarity with the customers or students that I'll be working with. And you'll have to forgive me because I still say customers instead of students, but they're all one and of the same. As long as we're helping the student get where they need to be, the data piece will fall into place as long as those other pieces and the curriculum and everything else is what it needs to be. And so that's really been kind of a wrap up to my position. It's a lot of collaboration, a lot of communication with other staff, with students, and then being able to keep up with all the spreadsheets and the data so that we will get to the point where I will be able to give you all statistics and numbers about our programs. And then it'll also give us an opportunity to reflect back and see how we can improve. So I think that is about it for my piece. Thank y'all for having me.
Thank you so much, Danielle. I think we have a couple questions, but we're starting to run out of time, and I do want to get to the next couple topics that we're going to discuss. So we'll save your questions for the end, if that's okay. Many programs took advantage of the WII funding to purchase much needed technology such as laptops, computers, tablets, and hotspot devices for their staff. However, they weren't sure about loaning tech to participants. Community Action Incorporated of Central Texas has an excellent loaner program that I hope will help you reconsider. And here to talk about it is Doug Mudd, the Adult Ed Director for Community Action. Doug manages 9 counties surrounding Travis County. He has worked in adult education since 2004 as the instructor, coordinator, and now director. He has been the director for almost 5 years, and his office is in San Marcos, Texas. Doug?
All right. Well, thank you, Maria, and thanks for having me, everyone. And I know we're running out of time, but I'm gonna try to go through this as fast as possible, but make sure I hit the important parts. So initially, we were very nervous about these, loaning devices to students because, the obvious question: will we get these devices back? I'm going to talk a little briefly about, our analysis, our initiation of the program, our device loaning program. I'm going to discuss the different strategies for minimizing the risks that come with loaning devices. And also, I'll show real briefly our loaner agreement contract that we do with students, because we sort of, in that contract, we address all of the risks, so it kind of helps minimize that, making sure those devices don't go anywhere, that we end up retaining them. So as she said, as Maria mentioned, Community Action serves the 9 counties that surround Travis County, and of course we were in need of a loaner program before COVID, but since COVID happened, we're looking for ways to better serve the students remotely. And, we had the need to initiate this this loaner device program. But so the first thing we did, of course, was we wanted to say, okay, what are the risks? I could talk about the benefits, and they're obviously there. We can, serve more students. They can work at home. It's more convenient. But the risks are the things that we were really wanting to mitigate. So, the obvious ones are the device may get damaged, lost, or stolen. They may be expensive to replace. Will the students use them appropriately? And one of the ones also is, oh my God, is this allowable? Is TWC actually going to allow us to do this? And let me say right away, yes. In fact, they're encouraging it. And the other thing is, will we get in trouble, for if we lose these the devices? And from what I understand, what I've heard is that with proper, process, with proper procedures and mitigating and minimizing the risks, there's nothing to worry about. So, and so far, I have to say, I have not lost any devices yet. We loan out 30 of them so far, because we did it little by little. So, and we have not lost a device yet. Okay, next slide. Okay, so strategies for minimizing the risk. So we set up a student Chromebook agreement addressing all these risks, and after loaning it out, we regularly meet with the students to make sure they're still in attendance, and then they have times where they, like at the end of the semester, they have to check back in the Chromebook, and we've loaned out hotspots and other things, but this is primarily a Chromebook loaner type of program. Also, a strategy is we purchase less expensive devices. We don't, loan out nice laptops that are $500 or $600, $700. We instead, loan out Chromebooks are like $250, right? Also, we ensure teachers and coordinators stay connected to the students. I mentioned this: if they stop attending, they need to be contacted immediately. And then we, of course, tag those Chromebooks and have the spreadsheet, and staff signs off on them. All right, here's our Chromebook contract right here in front of you. I sent this out to a couple of programs around the state, but like I said, these like 9 rules sort of helps minimize the risks that I mentioned earlier. So the student, this is what a student will put their name, John Smith, accept full responsibility for Chromebook tag number, and they have a tag number, and they agree to the following rules. And then what I thought about later is maybe even would be even better is to have a line for each one of these, so that they can initial, but however you want to do it, this is kind of what we have so far. And we're always tweaking, but I will not lend the Chromebook to any person, including friends, children, or any family member. That way it keeps it just in the hands of the student. I will not use the Chromebook while eating or drinking. I'll keep all foods and drinks away from the Chromebook. And, you know, and several other rules that, like I said, minimize. I don't want to go, it looks like we're running out of time. So I'm going to go on to the next slide. But look, you notice that there's a signature for instructor and student. So it's a true contract. Okay. And then lastly, the process for loaning a Chromebook. So I'm going to go through this real quickly, but we purchase and tag the Chromebooks and then have a sign out sheet. The staff identifies the students in need of a Chromebook. The staff signs out to the Chromebook from the main office. And then the staff has students sign the contract. And then regularly the staff verifies the student attendance. And then, of course, they can reissue out the Chromebooks if needed. And if the Chromebook is no longer needed, then the staff returns them back to the main office. So it's a contract to the students, but then also staff has to sign them out with a tag number. And so that, I know I went fast, but you know, that's our program in a nutshell. And like I said, we have not lost a Chromebook yet. And if you don't have a loaner device loaner program, I encourage you to get one. They're awesome. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Doug, for that brief but very informative topic. I really appreciate that. Very quickly, I also wanted to let you guys know that another area in which many programs took advantage of was increasing the number of licenses for distance learning and related remote education services, such as Zoom, Google Classroom, and other mobile messaging applications. But did you know that you can also use it for program promotion? If you have a small amount of money left and are trying to figure out what do I do with the rest of this money, I recommend using it for marketing and getting the word out. And so returning to talk about what they're doing at Region 5 again is Brenda. And can you just briefly tell us what you're doing over there at Region 5?
Yes, absolutely. Like many AEL programs in Texas, we're struggling to meet our total enrollment targets. So we want to promote our program to as many people as possible. We leverage local grant funds, AEL funds, and WII funds for program promotion. And these are some of the program promotion ideas and their approximate costs. So I'll just go over those very briefly. Digital billboards are awesome. The quote for this is $3,000 for a shared spot on 8 different billboards for 2 months. And it provides an estimated 850,000 views per week for our program. Stationary billboards are a more nominal cost at $250 to $500 per month. And we just last week filmed 2 custom promotional videos, and the total of that was $2,800. We also hired a marketing firm for 6 months at a cost of $5,700. This included graphic design, digital marketing, focusing on keywords when potential learners or employers use the search engines. A social media audit was included. They looked at our social media and also provided team training on best practices for us to market our own program through the social media. And then they are constantly tweaking our social media accounts. And there are a lot of other lower cost ideas, such as yard signs that cost $5 to $11 each, and they go a long way to getting the word out as well. So those are our ideas.
Thank you, Brenda. And just some quick final remarks. I just wanted to remind everyone that the WII grant is a one-time funding that disappears after June 30th. So if you're not sure about something, please feel free to reach out to your program specialist or your contract specialist, because we really want to help you spend this money. And finally, I hope that this session has provided you with some ideas that you can take back and discuss with your team to strengthen your program services and help our participants succeed. I have included everybody's contact email here if you'd like to reach out to someone in particular. But now I'll hand it back over to Olga if people want to stay on, for questions. We could talk about that now.
Thank you so much, Maria. Thank you, panel. Thank you, Art, Brenda, Kathy, Danielle, and Douglas, so much for sharing all this great information. Now, we did have a question real quick for Doug from Kelly Carnline. She said, do the Chromebooks have internal internet?
No, we don't. I wish we did. That's a great idea. We talked about that. We've also lent out hotspots when they need them, but we don't have internet with that. They have to have their own internet for the most part.
Okay. Thank you so much, Doug. Any other questions? Thank you, Anne Marie and Katie, for assisting. A lot of great information. It's just thank you for the informative information. Great presentation. So thank you so much, panel. Great ideas, great presentation. So thank you so much. And we're going to go ahead, and if there are no other questions, I don't see any coming through. So thank you for hanging on, everybody. Thank you, panel, and you are truly appreciated. So go out there if you haven't spent your money and spend your money before June 30th. Thank you.